Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Office Bloke Daz.
I'm Gaynor.
Office Bloke Aidan.
Here we are, all three of us. If Patreon's your thing, check out the link in the description below. You won't be disappointed. It starts at just like $3 a month, helps support the channel.
Yeah.
And you get full watch-alongs to things like Modern Family, Always Sunny in Philadelphia, F is for Family, Seinfeld.
Great shows.
We've got loads of sports channels on there. We've got loads of stuff on there that it's something every day, pretty much. Anyway.
Welcome to Wrexham.
Welcome to Wrexham as well, yeah. So get involved if it's something for you.
Yes.
With all the bad news going on around the world.
Yeah.
And all the doubt about
News
everything that's
channel's
going to
always
happen,
bad news,
whether
isn't
we
it?
might even be here in another month or so. Who knows?
Jesus.
You just don't know, do you? Your monthly dose of good news.
Yes.
Can't get better than that, can you?
Do like a bit of good news.
Let's see what
Well,
we've
everyone
got.
likes it.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Liver disease is responsible for about 4% of global annual deaths. And the main
That's
reason
not good
it's
news.
fatal is because wait times for a replacement kidney are just far too long. This might no longer be the case, because a revolutionary new treatment is promising to change everything. For the first time, a pig liver has been successfully transplanted into a human. From the invention of a type of concrete that's carbon negative to a landmark study that shows tackling the climate emergency will improve the world economy. This is your monthly dose of good news. Hey,
Let's go.
I'm your host Regis, and let's get the good vibes rolling with a story from
Oh, yeah.
Greece,
Do it. Come on,
where a
Reece.
rare seal has bounced back from extinction.
Oh.
The Mediterranean
I
monk
do.
seal is unique because it's the only seal species currently found in the Mediterranean Sea. They're extremely fast swimmers, and they're able to devour up to 3 kilograms of fish, octopus, and squid every day.
Wow.
Since the 15th century, however, these beautiful creatures were nearly hunted to extinction. That's because they're prized for their meat, fur, and blubber. And fishermen view them as pests because they like to tear through nets for an easy meal. By the 1960s, they were classed as critically endangered by the IUCN. Thankfully, though, things started to get better around the 1980s or so. Conservation programs and efforts to educate the public about them saw their population shoot up for the first time in half a millennia. Last year, the IUCN moved them from endangered to vulnerable. The Greek charity MOM, which is dedicated to the protection of the seal, has a lot to do with this. A reference to the animal's scientific name, Monachus monachus, MOM has been preserving these iconic mammals for over 30 years.
I don't think I've ever seen a seal in real life.
I have.
I don't
I'm
recall
just
where.
trying to think where I've seen it.
Didn't we see one at some sort of water park? Or was that an otter?
Sea lion, maybe, or an otter. Yeah. I don't think it was an otter, would it? You wouldn't have an otter in a water park, would you?
It was like a aquarium type bit in the water park.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, it was
I
at
remember seeing a penguin.
Scion Park that had otters.
No, you made a joke about it being otter.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Didn't have otters. You said something like a sea
I
lion.
don't think
and the
I have
guys had-
seen a seal though, in like an aquarium or something.
If a monk seal is found close to death in the wild, they're transferred to one of the organization's rehabilitation centers. After being nursed back to health, the animal is then reintroduced back into the Greek seas.
Oh.
Over the years, MOM has looked after over 40 different seals. That's quite a lot, considering that their population in Greece is only 400 total.
Well,
Okay, we're staying underwater for our next story, because scientists have shared a video of a real-life Sharktopus.
What?
Now, before you start panicking, we're not actually talking about a single animal here. Thank God for that, honestly. No, we're actually talking about an amazing video of an octopus clinging onto the back of a shark like it was riding a horse.
That's mad.
Moving swiftly on, it's time for our environmental update. So let's take a look at a landmark ruling that will protect the rights of uncontacted indigenous people. Ecuador is one of 9 countries that have indigenous communities who choose to have no contact with the outside world.
This is mad
At this
nowadays.
moment
Yeah.
in time, the South American nation is home to 3 uncontacted tribes that all live in an off-limits area of the Yasuni National Park called the Intangible Zone. This zone was first established in 2007 to protect their traditional lands from illegal logging, oil extraction, and other forms of exploitation. In the last few years, however, the Ecuadorian government has been criticized for prioritizing the interests of the oil industry over the rights of their native people. In 2013, for example, they quietly redrew the boundaries of the intangible zone so that companies could operate in oil-rich areas inhabited by uncontacted tribes. And more recently, oil giants have been allowed to set up extraction facilities in the buffer zone that surrounds it. Thankfully, though, in March, justice was served. That's because the Inter-American Court of Human Rights has decreed that the Ecuadorian government violated the rights of its indigenous citizens. As a result, Ecuador has been banned from expanding or renewing oil operations in the intangible zone. From the Amazon...
I always find it very unusual, I would say, that these indigenous people still sort of like operating around the world. They're in these zones, and I've seen like loads of different films on it, and people in, like, I think it's Brazil have some, in the rainforest where they started firing, and one guy went to an island where he thought he'd be accepted and they ate him, sort of thing. They murdered him and ate him or whatever. But it's one of them things where I just think nowadays money talks nowadays, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Wherever there's money, no one gives a shit. And it's a bit like there with the oil. I'm glad that someone's seen sense there and went, you know what, you're not having it. It's where they live. It's their land. Sod off type thing. But yeah.
It's like the what they call those that in Pennsylvania.
The Hamish.
Yeah. So they have kind of
Is it the Amish?
Amish, yeah. So they've now kind of come forward a little bit, haven't they? In that they're now selling their goods and stuff like that.
I think they've always done that, haven't they? But sort of thing. But they're another sort of like a group of people where they just keep themselves to themselves and stick together.
They're not really an indigenous tribe, though, are they?
No, but they're very. They don't.
But
drive
they were.
cars, don't they?
I think 30 years ago they were.
It might have been a little bit different.
A lot less than they are now.
Become more modern, I think, over the years.
Amazon rainforest to the European woodlands, a new national forest in the United Kingdom will see 20 million trees planted.
Where's this going to be?
In November 2023, the British government promised to transform 16.5% of England into forest by 2050. As part of that, they've recently announced the creation of the Western Forest. This will cover a significant portion of Western England, across the regions of Gloucestershire, Wiltshire, and Somerset. Urban settlements such as Bristol, Swindon, and Gloucester will be a major focus of this forestation drive.
The catalyst was realising that this land had a lot more capacity to hold trees, and that trees are such an important part of the ecosystem. And yeah, I just think planting trees has to be one of the most worthwhile things that you could do.
More specifically, they've pledged to turn 20% of this western region into woodlands by 2050. In order to meet this ambitious target, they will annually pump $10 million into the Western Forest over the next 5 years. The project is expected to help the United Kingdom reach its target of achieving net zero emissions by 2050. All right, let's dive into the medical.
I always think about the solar farms they have over here.
Yeah.
They're taking up all the green belt and stuff like that. They're putting them in these fields and just covering the green belt with solar farms. I always wonder why they don't put them elsewhere, like in urban cities, on the roofs and different places, like garages and stuff like where you got massive roof spaces with nothing on them. Just stick them there, right? Surely.
Maybe it's more expensive to do it that way.
It will be, because you'd have to choose different sort of like areas sort of thing to do it. But I just find it weird that they use all this open land rather than built up areas to where you can. There's already something there you can mount it on.
Yeah.
World, because a pig liver has successfully been transplanted into a human patient in a world first. Finding a replacement liver is extremely hard. In the United States, for example, it can take anywhere from 30 days to 5 years to find one. The speed at which you get one is dependent on a number of different factors, including the severity of the liver failure and the availability of a compatible organ. A solution to this problem is something called xenotransplantation. This is when a patient receives a temporary organ from a genetically modified animal. Eventually, it's removed and replaced when a suitable human version becomes available. Now, this treatment has a lot of potential. That's because multiple studies have shown that genetically modified pig livers transplanted into humans actually work. Typically, these experiments have been conducted on brain-dead patients who are still technically alive. This is exactly what medical researchers did back in March. The pig organ in question was given 6 genetic modifications to prevent it from being rejected by the immune system of the subject. Human genes were also inserted into the liver to make it more compatible. What followed was something called an auxiliary transplant. This is when the replacement is inserted into the body without removing the original liver. The results were incredible. The modified pig liver was not rejected, and it carried out basic functions with no issues for 10 days straight before being removed. With that being said, though, it is a little too early to say whether a pig liver could act as a full replacement for a human alternative, and that's just frankly because the patient already had a functioning liver. But most importantly, what the experiment does show is that this is a viable option that should be explored more. Moving swiftly on to technology news, scientists have broken the efficiency record for solar windows. Solar windows are essentially windows with built-in, transparent solar panels. They work by converting infrared and ultraviolet rays from sunlight into electricity, while also allowing visible light through. This type of renewable energy technology has a number of advantages. In addition to being sustainable, it can seamlessly and stylishly blend in with modern building design. If fully developed, this versatile device could eventually replace expensive solar panel farms that require enormous amounts of space. At the moment, conventional, non-transparent solar panels are up to 25% efficient. In contrast, solar windows are around 10% efficient. An international team of scientists, however, has just upped this figure to 12.3%. They did this by making a new type of photovoltaic glass that combines perovskite and organic solar cells. These see-through materials are better because they are able to convert a greater portion of the light spectrum into energy. So the million or billion-dollar question, when can they be introduced on a larger scale? Well, unfortunately, due to the lack of funding and the need for more research, it'll be a long time before they're rolled out commercially. But it's certainly pretty promising. Let's take a look at another
technology with things like that just
blows your mind.
Developing constantly at rapid rates at the moment.
I've often wondered why they can't, like when they look a bit ugly when they're on the roof, don't they? Why can't they make something like that's clear glass that does the same thing?
Well, that's what they're saying there. That's what they've got, clear glass. Yeah. It's only 10% efficient, and they boosted up to 12.2%, whereas the regular one's 20% efficient for capturing energy. But I think it's like I say, technology is moving such high speeds that there'll be something out in the next 10 to 15 years that all that'll be obsolete. Hopefully, like I say, you can get back to them solar farms, get back to taking them away and using something that's a lot more compact and a lot more, let's say, attractive to the eye. Let's say, but most aesthetically pleasing.
It's like the first mobile phone as well. This bit.
Yeah, correct. And you looked 20 years ago, you wouldn't be looking at you watching a film on your phone 20 years ago, whereas now you can watch pretty much anything on your phone. Everything's on your phone.
Positive tech breakthrough next, because American scientists have invented a type of concrete that's carbon negative. Concrete. It's hard, durable, and great to build with. But while it may be a staple of modern construction, it is terrible for the environment. According to experts, the industrial process required to create concrete is responsible for anywhere between 5 and 10% of global carbon dioxide emissions. Carbon-neutral concrete has often been hailed as a solution, but a team from Northwest University appears to have gone one step further than that. They've invented a type of concrete that's carbon negative, using a combination of seawater, electricity, and carbon dioxide. So, how is it made? And just how does it remove CO2 from the atmosphere? In simple terms, hydrogen and carbon dioxide are added to seawater. This then produces two solid substances called calcium carbonate and magnesium hydroxide. The most exciting thing is that the same carbon-negative method can be used to make other products, like cement, paint, and plaster. The upshot here is that in the near future, constructing buildings might actually become good for the environment rather than bad. That is truly mind-blowing. Continuing ahead, let's talk about energy, because an advanced underwater turbine farm is set to generate clean energy for French consumers. Tidal energy, or hydropower, generates electricity from the natural movement of flowing water. This renewable energy source emits zero carbon emissions and harnesses power from tidal currents that follow a consistent behavior pattern. What this means is that its power output is way more predictable than something like wind power, for example. This brings us to the news that French energy developer Normandie Hydrolienne has received just over $35 million in funding from the European Union for an ambitious tidal farm. The NH1 tidal project will be built off the coast of Normandy in the Rose-Blanchard tidal flow, Europe's strongest underwater current. Set to open in 2028, it'll deliver 34 gigawatt hours of electricity every year, using 4 of the world's most powerful underwater turbines. That's enough to supply 15,000 homes. Before we continue, we just want to say a big...
Yeah, with that though, what would it cause? What problems would it create for sea life? Do you think, or even the movement of the water?
Yeah.
Because I don't know how big they are. They look pretty big when I seen them on there. Then I don't know if that was one of them they shown on the image. But if it's surely there must be some kind of effect if that's churning around in the sea.
Yeah.
Where it's pushing water around, sort of thing. I guess I know it's generating energy from it, but the sea life surely would have some kind of like problem with it. You know?
Yeah.
But wind farms do. They knock birds out and everything. I see birds. If you live near a wind farm, you've been near a wind farm. Once that blade starts running, birds get batted out the sky.
Yeah.
You know, it's that's a problem for the wildlife as well.
But the shark could eat it.
That way.
Thank you for all of your support and the feedback that you guys give us in the comments. If you want to join us on our quest to make the world a more positive place, make sure that you're subscribed right here to Good News. And now, back to the video. Installing hydroelectric facilities is just one of the measures that the French are taking to reduce CO2. It'll also make France more prosperous. That's because a new study has concluded that tackling the climate crisis increases economic growth. For decades, critics of net zero carbon policies have claimed that they hurt rather than benefit the world economy. In a nutshell, they believe that economic growth slows down when renewable energy is prioritized over fossil fuels. Now, a newly published report from the OECD has concluded net zero policies could result in a net gain to global GDP by the end of the next decade. To understand their point, let's take a look at the extreme weather caused by climate change. Disastrous events like this destroy homes and livelihoods, negatively impact food production, and force more people to migrate abroad. If strong action isn't taken to address this, the European economy will shrink by 2.3% annually by 2050. According to a recent study out of the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. To put that into perspective, during the 2008-2009 recession, Europe's economy decreased by 5.5%. In other words, if it's left unchecked, by the middle of this century, there will be a serious financial crisis every single year. By strongly confronting the climate emergency, it's estimated that the GDP of the most developed countries in the world would grow by 60% by 2050. Lower income nations would benefit even more, with a predicted 124% growth by the same date. Last but not least, we turn...
I'd like to see the opposite side of that, because I've got into like reading about climate change and net zero and all that kind of stuff, and I get the fors and against, you know, and I'd like to see the opposite side of what he's saying there. I get it's a good news story, you know, I'm not trying to put a dampener on it, but I'm not sure what he's saying there is entirely the one side of a story.
Right.
I'd like to see someone from the other side come in and go, well, this is the facts on this one, and these are the results on this one. I'm just not sure his numbers. I'm not saying they're not correct, but I'm just not sure about that one.
To society and to Denmark, which is set to ban mobile phones in schools and after-school clubs. Back in 2023, the Danish government was becoming increasingly concerned about how young people were being negatively affected by their phones. As a result, they set up something called the Danish Wellbeing Commission to investigate. Their report was finally published in February of this year, and it was pretty darn revealing. The authors found that 9 to 14-year-olds spend an average of 3 hours every day on apps like TikTok and YouTube. We hope that they're at least watching good news, but you never know. Furthermore, they showed that 94% of kids had already created a social media profile before they were 13, and that's despite 13 being the minimum sign-up age of most of these platforms. Their main takeaway was that the digitization of children's lives from an early age was contributing to poor mental health. Among the 35 recommendations they put forward, the most significant is a proposal to ban phones from school and after-school clubs. And the government has listened, because they've already begun preparing the legislation needed to enforce this. By doing so, Denmark is following in the footsteps of France, who passed a similar measure in 2018. These types of laws are part of a wider push by European countries to protect their youth from addictive social media platforms. Are you guys seeing this? I am literally glowing with positivity after all that good news. Which of our stories has made you glow the most? Let us know in the comments down below.
I think the one that made me glow the most there was about the seal.
Same.
Being
Seals.
brought into to not endangered anymore.
Yeah.
You know, they're still vulnerable, or did he? What was it? Can't remember the word he used was.
Endangered.
No, he said they're not endangered anymore.
They're
They've
now
been brought to-
vulnerable, yeah.
Vulnerable, but I think some of the stuff like the banning of the phones. When you look at it, if you do sport, you can't use your phone.
Yeah.
You can't run around playing football or rugby or on your phone. You can't. Yep. Just won't happen.
Facts.
Phones are left, and so get your kids into sport. Get them out there playing, doing something.
Yeah.
Right, running. You don't use your phone. You can strap it to you and listen to stuff as you run. Music or whatever you want to listen to, podcasts. But you can just go out there and exercise. Is what I say. Get them running. Get kids running.
Kids are on the phones too much these days.
Well, we were with our granddaughter over the weekend, and she's only 2, and she was showing me this bunny video, and she gets the phone, logs in, right, pushes what she needs, and gets me onto this bunny video, and she's showing me, and she's swiping up to the next one and all that sort of thing, and I'm like, she's 2.
Yeah.
And she knows how to use this already. She doesn't even know how to piss in the toilet. She knows how to use the phone. Do you know what I mean?
That's actually true.
It's baffling. It's like the way they act. But also it's innocent what she's watching. She's just watching pictures of bunny rabbits, videos of bunny rabbits. She's not being influenced by anything.
Or
owls. She's not being influenced. No, she's not being influenced by anything that's on there. Even like to the fact of like watching I don't know what the other kids shows are. She's not watching any other kids shows about learning. She's just looking at bunnies and owls.
Yeah.
And she's fascinated by them, and her face is just like lit up, like happy or serious, whatever's happening with the bunny, sort of thing. But she's pretty funny with it, and that's what kids should be doing. If they're going to be doing that, watch something that's going to make them smile, as opposed to being serious and being influenced into what's right and what's wrong. But it was good news, pretty much. I'm not sure about the climate change stuff. I'll have to wear the other side.
Go on the Denmark one. I thought phones would have already been banned in school.
No, I don't.
They were banned when I was in school.
I think they are banned
in
the UK.
You weren't allowed to use them in school.
Yeah, how's that any different?
I think they are banned in the UK, aren't they, in schools?
You're not allowed to use your phone
No,
in school.
because
that might just
one
be
of the
your
girls
school.
in the office, she constantly gets like messages from her daughter, who she has to sneak in the toilet and use a phone.
Don't get me wrong,
sneaking,
I could
would be
obviously
banned.
at lunchtime I could use it and stuff.
Yeah, I think they're trying to stop it altogether by being used from sort of like 9 in the morning until 3:30 in the afternoon, or wherever they go.
You don't need a phone.
No, you're there to learn, but at the same time, I think some of the...
what if you're in Denmark and you have an emergency and someone's trying to get hold of you?
You speak to the teacher and say to the teacher...
We didn't have phones when we were at school.
No, that's right.
We survived.
We got all right, yeah. I think it's just at the moment, I think the topics of education at the moment need updating a little bit. There's a lot of stuff they're learning at school they have no intentions of ever using. We've never used them.
Yeah. The problem as well is like, when they send homework home, they send it home now and you have to have an iPad.
Yeah, that's the point.
That's if you're doing
Or
your
a
homework
computer.
and then it blobs up like, Joe's trying to talk to you, going to talk to Joe, aren't you?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Who's Joe?
I don't know.
That comes up on mine. Joe wants to talk to you.
Yeah. Anyway, it was pretty much good news.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I say, some of the stories I like to wear the for and against before I believe anything that's don't know, and I get proper stats on it. But I just like I like fun facts like the pig liver.
Yeah, that's amazing if you could do that.
That's science technology. I like that.
There's a lot of sciencey stuff on there, wasn't there?
Yeah, good channel though. He tells a good story, doesn't
does,
he?
yeah.
Makes you feel better in yourself.
Yeah.
I think so.
Seals.
Hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye.
Cheers.